The Bible is one of the most referenced books in the world. Over the last few decades, an intense religious and scientific debate has been building around the idea of ETs in the Bible. In 2014, the Center for Theological Inquiry, a research institute in New Jersey, was awarded $1.1 million by NASA to study, quote, the societal implications of astrobiology, unquote. In other words, what would the overall impact be on religions if they were to discover we're not alone in the universe? Is it possible that a distant race of ancient aliens once inhabited the lands of the Bible, and if so, are we part of their legacy?
When we're reading the Bible, we always have to look to the first page to see which version of the Bible are you reading. The New International Version, the New International Version, the King James Version, the St. Jerome Version. Which version are you reading? Because the language is going to be different. So if we were to write, for example, the ET version of the Bible, we'd go back to every story where it says, and the heavens opened, and realize they're talking about a stargate. What else could be the heavens opening but a rip in the fabric of space-time? And so this is a way we can start to connect with what the ancients were actually seeing or experiencing. Their language was different from ours. They would say, the heavens open. We would say, oh, a stargate opened. It's as much a function of language that separates us from true understanding as it is anything else.
There are so many references of extraterrestrial contact in the Bible. There are 70 verses describing clouds as vehicles, 15 verses describing pillars, 10 verses describing dwellings as vehicles, 160 verses describing lights and fire as vehicles. There's 17 verses describing spinning wheels, and also 22 verses describing dark and shining objects as vehicles. There's also 37 verses of various objects in the Bible that describe UFOs as flying furnaces and burning bushes. So as you can see, based off of the vocabulary of the people of those times, they can only use words that would help them describe what we would call nowadays UFOs.
The Bible begins with the book of Genesis, and it ends with the book of Revelations. In between are dozens of stories that reference what many scholars suggest may be extraterrestrial phenomena. Genesis 6:4 describes the sons of God coming and bearing children with the daughters of man. This begs the question, who were the sons of God?
The ultimate example of an extraterrestrial intervention in the Bible is Genesis chapter 6. This is where the fallen angels, the watcher angels, descend onto the earth plane, take on physical incarnation, and have sex with human females, creating a hybrid offspring referred to as the Nephilim. These are described as the mighty men of renown. Why is that? What does it mean to say that they're mighty men? What distinguishes a mighty man from an ordinary human? And the answer is that these fallen angels are considered to be equivalent to, if not the same as, the Anunnaki of Sumeria. The Anunnaki possessed a cloak or a garment called the Malamu that gave them superpowers. So what this is saying is that the Nephilim were the mighty humans who possessed this cloak or garment of the Anunnaki, and just like the Anunnaki, when they had the Malamu on, they're radiant, they're shining, they're luminous, and they have superpowers. So this is another hidden reference to technology in the Bible.
That kind of interaction actually talks about the Nephilim actually interbreeding with human women. That's a pretty big influence.
Inside of our DNA, there's a programming language there. It's been left by our progenitors. When we crack this code and when we figure out who we are and where we're going, we'll realize that our destiny is in the stars. Therefore, we have to ask ourselves, if we go back to the Genesis story, were these a very advanced group of geneticists that made us as a hybrid species?
There are accounts like this that have appeared, the former that I was referring to actually in the Bible itself, but other sources of ancient origins like that, such as the tablets that Zechariah was translating, that seem to be indicative of accounts of these other beings interacting with us.
Walter Matfield states in his book Eden's Serpent, Its Mesopotamian Origins, that the Garden of Eden belonged to the Anunnaki, lending more credence to the serpent not just being a biblical creature, but a member of the Anunnaki.
Let's think of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. This is some type of a reptilian type of being that we've been taught to be afraid of. It's a wisdom bearer. It's in the Gnostic Gospels, they describe it as this bright snake, this illuminated snake taking on a humanoid form. We have the winged serpents that are described in the Bible, angels as winged serpents, humanoid beings with serpentine faces that can spin their bodies into whirlwinds and can change their form. They can shapeshift right before your eyes. These are clearly another class of beings. So I think what's going to happen here is we're going to have to broaden our perspective on the possibility of what other creatures could actually look like or be like.